The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the head of the Nation of Islam, had recruited Malcolm in the late 1940s when he was a prisoner in Massachusetts prisons. Malcolm had risen to a position of prominence within the Nation of Islam, but then in the early 60s he discovered a number of things about Elijah Muhammad. That he was inconsistent in his own religious beliefs, that he taught one thing and lived his life a different way. And Malcolm became disillusioned with that. Malcolm also began to search for the meaning of Orthodox Islam as practiced by over 1 billion Muslims throughout the world. And he began to break away from the nation by advocating a black politics of engagement. By late February 1964, it became clear to Malcolm that he had to make a decision. He began to reach out to members of the nation who he felt he could trust. The man he trusted the most was a brother named James Warden, today known as James 67X. Malcolm said, look, why don't we meet tonight, after midnight? I'll pick you up. They drove over to Morningside Heights Park, and the two men talked for hours. Malcolm vented, explaining to James why it was that he was contemplating leaving the Nation of Islam. James listened to Malcolm for a period of a couple hours and then finally said, you just don't get it, my brother. Elijah Muhammad and the people around him want you out of this organization. That there are people in the leadership who want you dead. 67X decided, against his better judgment, to leave the nation and to work with Malcolm for 1 year, and 1 year only, as his chief of staff. In 1964, when Malcolm left the nation, he came to the Hotel Teresa and he set up his own office for the Organization of Afro-American Unity on the mezzanine floor. In a secret meeting that Malcolm held with a variety of artists and civil rights leaders, Malcolm sat down with them and mapped out a strategy where Malcolm would go to Africa and appeal to the leaders of Africa's new independent countries and put pressure on the United States at the United Nations, criticizing and attacking the U.S. for crimes against humanity. Instead of going to Congress or the President to appeal for racial justice here in this country, you take the United States, you take the criminal to court. He became a global figure, a leader that Muslims throughout the planet were listening to, that African people throughout the continent were listening to. What made Malcolm X dangerous was his drive to mobilize world opinion against the United States government. When you do that, you become an enemy of the state. And that is what Malcolm was. And so they knew they had to act, and they had to curtail his influence. And that's what they decided to do.